In Los Angeles, Bruce Page, Nation's Business Today. You can run, kid, but you can't hide. Welcome to Combat Air USA. Okay, so maybe it's not a dogfight to the death with the aces of Top Gun, but it's the closest you'll ever get. High in the sky, you do the steering, you do the shooting. A combat veteran as your coach and cheerleader.
Beautiful, beautiful kill, that Gomer's out of there. Yeehaw!
Super jets, they're not, but if you have a need for speed, 250 miles per hour in these Italian Marchetti prop jobs will still splash you across the sky 16 ways to Sunday. Talk about rockin' and a-rollin', turnin' and burnin'. Consider this the undisputed king of e-ticket rides.
I race cars, and this was the next step. It's great. Soaking wet. From the waist up.
I like to live on the edge. I like to do something that's different and unique, and that's what this is all about.
So far, there's no other business on earth like it. So how did ever come to be?
About 5 years ago, I was teaching acrobatics in my biplane, and a friend of mine would show up in the practice area in his biplane, and it would degenerate into a dogfight. Well, I had video cameras in the aircraft at the time, but we could never determine who got whom.
As an aeronautical engineer, Mike thought it might cost him $100 and about 3 months to come up with. Turned out it cost him $500,000 over 3 years, but he did it and patented it.
You just stick a little forward for some speed. Boy left. And when you get him in your gun sight, squeeze your trigger. There you go. Now your stick back. Try your shot. You got him. You got him. Good kill. Good kill. You got him. You got him.
Computers on board now track the hits. Skywriter's smoke tells the world. Even better, video cameras on board record it all to show the world back home ever after. All included in the price, ranging from $300 to $500, dependent upon time airborne in the danger zone. Now with 4 fighter planes and a dozen combat pilots to draw from, and customers from all over the world lining up, Air Combat USA is literally a business soaring to high heaven.
That wasn't too tough. Yeehaw!
In Fullerton, California, Bruce Page, First Business.
Hi, I'm Victoria Principal.
Hi, I'm Vanna White.
Familiar faces, aren't they? Seen them lately on TV selling stuff? Besides being infomercials, what they also have in common is they're produced by 2 gutsy guys, Guthie and Rinker. Gutsy because they took a big risk, blazed a trail, and shaped what is today a $5 billion industry, generating more than $100 million every year right here alone.
We got into the infomercial business at just the right time, as did several of our competitors. Independent stations were floundering in the TV business. So were broadcast stations beginning to flounder. They needed our advertising dollars. They couldn't afford to continue to buy programming. We came along when television was deregulated, said, we'll pay you for that whole half hour. They were used to buying half hours, such as Gilligan's Island, and trying to fill it with commercial time. We said, you don't have to do that anymore. We're going to put money in your pocket. They said, this is too good to be true.
Operating an audio tape duplication company 10 years ago, Bill Guthie was tipped off by a new customer who paved their way.
I got a phone call from a guy who said he needed a very large number of cassettes duplicated. It was 12 masters. He needed 10,000 of each, or possibly 20,000 of each. I gave him the quote. Didn't think about it again, because many, many people call asking for that kind of volume, and it never materializes. They're just dreaming about it. About a week later, he walked in the office with the master tapes and a deposit check for half the amount, and needed to turn around in like 10 days. Huge job for us then. We scrambled. We got it done. And I'd say for every week, he came and ordered that amount for about 3 months.
The customer was generating such incredible response from infomercials he ran on emerging cable networks. Bill saw a similar opportunity with Think and Grow Rich books and audio tapes, so he acquired the rights. Friend and kindred spirit Greg caught the vision too, so they joined forces and off they charged.
When our very first infomercial for Think and Grow Rich worked, we thought that the world was our oyster and that we could pretty much try anything we wanted to. And we did, and we made a lot of mistakes. We learned quickly that there are a lot of things that don't work and some that will keep working over and over. But the first couple of times we hit, we thought that it was Katie bar the door.
85% of infomercials fail, but growing pains of what works and what doesn't are less likely to sandbag them now, having the money and muscle of New World Television invested in the enterprise. Are you ready for 24-hour infomercial channels? Don't be surprised if Guthrie Renker someday owns their own. Graduation day indeed for two gutsy guys who literally started on a ground floor. In Palm Desert, Bruce Page, First Business.
Mommy, look at me.
This mommy could be excused. She's had her eyes on bigger game, clothes to set her feet a-dancing, because everything in this store sells for under 20 bucks. The name of the place could well be I Like It Like That, but it's actually Susie's Deals, and it's not just in this mall, but 80 other locations now throughout the Sunbelt states. You've heard it before, know what you're good at, find a niche and hammer your way in. These folks did, got their feet wet at swap meets and took off from there. Not too shabby to go from nickels and dimes to better than $50 million a year. You want to make a small fortune? Start with a big fortune, so the joke goes, and go into the rag trade. The Valley of Dry Bones is littered with belly-up companies who did just that. So maybe starting your small business at a swap meet isn't such a bad idea. Worked like a charm for Susie.
Well, because we grew in a small pace, and we grew nice and soundly, and we developed into one store and then into a few more stores as we could handle it. And to us, it was the right way to grow.
And what's her market niche?
Our market is from the age of like 16 to 24 years old, primarily young, junior, the type of girl that goes out and buys today for tonight. The gal that buys yesterday and today that's buying for Friday night football game or Saturday night evening. And that is our customer, and someone who is looking for style at the right price.
Well, it's stylish clothes and it's really cheap and good price, and I can relate to that. Especially when you go to the stores and see the same clothes for higher prices. So I like shopping here.
Value marketing, shouts Business Week magazine, is the way to sell in the 90s. And that says a lot for Susie's success. But as you might expect, there's a lot more to it behind the scenes. The management team includes her brothers. David oversees merchandising with a hands-on style.
And so I try to relate with the customer to find out what they are actually looking for instead of just reading reports and seeing reports, what's actually selling. I also get the feedback from the customer.
Brother Stephen oversees the growing empire. Could it really be that big, you ask?
Oh, absolutely. And I think we've just hit the tip of the iceberg in this market. People don't like to drive more than 6-7 miles away from their home to shop. And we have not even covered the LA area as heavy as we should cover it. And we hope to go completely to all the Sunbelt states before we're through. We'd like to go all the way to Florida.
The more stores, the greater the clout they have to get the better deals to pass on to their growing customer base. And having increased their warehouse efficiency recently by 40% with automation, you might say Susie's Deals is getting shapelier with each passing year. In Los Angeles, Bruce Page, First Business. Diamonds may be a girl's best friend, but ask any girl around you and she'll probably tell you pearls can generate just about as much affection.
Pearls have been worn by royalty for hundreds and hundreds of years. Pearl is a very traditional, natural, beautiful thing to wear, and it's great with fashion today also.
So where do they come from? The Far East? Many do, but these are proudly made in America. That part of the story happened, oddly enough, when Paul Cross, a jewelry designer on the one hand and oil and gas contractor on the other, made an important connection.
I was digging some wells in Sonora, Texas, and the rig hands were diving for shell after work, and I thought they were eating them. They were filling their trucks up with them, and I found out later that they were selling the shells to the Japanese to produce the nucleus, which is essential to grow pearls. No one in the world grows pearls without a U.S. natural resource, which is its shell. Most people think pearls come from a grain of sand. If that was the case, every oyster in the ocean would have a pearl in it. It takes a whole bunch of extraordinary coincidences to get a natural pearl. And in cultivating pearls, you force the animal to believe that he's doing something he would do naturally.
In short, this is a small business enterprise where Mother Nature does the work, with a little help from provocateurs, people who take mollusk shells from the Mississippi drainage, hone them into squares, preform them into perfect rounds, polish them into perfect spheres or nuclei, then insert them inside a shellfish or mollusk for a year or two of incubation and planned irritation. In the right surroundings, most of the shellfish respond by covering the nuclei with concentric layers of coating, and that's how a pearl comes to be. It was one thing for Paul to recognize opportunity, but how'd he get it off the ground to become the only pearl farmer in mainland USA?
Well, the puzzle came together through the research in discovering biomineralization and knowing how to do it. It was just really finding a location that was suitable to produce the product. And the Yuba River provided a natural source for that didn't require a lot of capitalization to get in and evidence that we could do it.
Capitalization followed, needless to say, to the extent that Cross-Pacific Pearls is a multi-million-dollar-a-year business in less than 3 years, with projects now underway in Tahiti, the Seychelles, and Kona, Hawaii. Anybody who thinks American ingenuity is dead better take another look. These pearls of great price clearly prove American ingenuity's alive and very well. In Nevada City, California, Bruce Page, First Business. Espresso and its kissing cousins cappuccino, cafe au lait, latte, mocha, and so on are catching on, no longer just with the shishi crowd, but now millions of jaded Java imbibers seeking a high-octane alternative that's a real taste treat. That demand is fueling serious inroads into the market share of America's $6.5 billion a year coffee industry. Piacere International got off to a slow start almost a decade ago, but is clearly a trailblazer today. Its trump card over many competitors is a patented system, comparatively inexpensive, uniquely compact, rare to break down, and able to deliver full-strength, non-bitter espresso instantly, and no longer just 1 cup at a time. At headquarters here, the process begins with premium Arabica beans being roasted fresh daily. Next, those beans are ground and brewed into espresso concentrate, which is then bottled and refrigerated. Because the espresso arrives at point of purchase pre-brewed, all it takes is a quick blast with the steamer, and you've got it made with embellishments easy to add. This successful formula had humble beginnings in Dick Forquet's kitchen.
I was unemployed, and I'm looking, and I had such a strong desire to do this that I was willing to take it all on. And instead of going out and working for somebody else, which never worked for me. So what I had to do was to make this to the point where people would see that this is an economically really a feasible product line.
Dick started with Italian machines, but breakdowns were breaking him.
So I got a hold of my son-in-law, Miguel. I said, Miguel,